It's an honor to meet you. Thank you so much for coming today.
You know that feeling when you walk into a room and the temperature instantly drops 10 degrees, not because someone left a window open, but because the people inside have decided you simply don't exist? That was exactly the vibe at the St. James estate last Saturday, a sprawling $30 million vineyard in Napa Valley where the champagne flowed like water and the judgment was served thicker than the wedding cake. Standing at the edge of the manicured lawn was a woman named Olivia Mercer, and let me tell you, she looked like she had walked onto the wrong movie set. She wasn't wearing the pastel silks or the structured linens that the other 300 guests were sporting. She was in a simple, dark navy dress, holding a worn leather briefcase, looking at the massive stone mansion like she was trying to remember a dream she had a long time ago. She hadn't been standing there for more than 30 seconds when the voice of God, or at least, the woman who thought she was God, sliced through the humid afternoon air. Security! Get this woman off my lawn immediately. That voice belonged to Evelyn St. James, the mother of the groom and the self-appointed queen of Napa society. Evelyn was the kind of woman who had her gardener fire the help because she didn't want to get her hands dirty, the kind of woman whose smile never quite reached her eyes, stopping somewhere around her surgically enhanced cheekbones. She marched over to Olivia, her gold Cartier bracelets clinking together like tiny handcuffs, waving her hand as if she was shooing away a stray dog. "I will not have this day ruined by some crasher looking for a handout," Evelyn hissed, loud enough for the nearest tables to hear, enjoying the audience. "We have senators here. We have CEOs. We do not have space for whatever this is." She gestured up and down at Olivia's simple attire with a look of pure, unfiltered disgust. Now, most people would have crumbled. Most people would have turned red, mumbled an apology, and sprinted for the exit. But Olivia Mercer just stood there. She didn't flinch. She didn't blink. She just looked Evelyn St. James dead in the eye and said, with a voice as calm as a library, "I believe there's been a misunderstanding, Mrs. St. James." Misunderstanding? Evelyn stepped closer, invading Olivia's personal space, smelling of expensive lilies and gin. "Listen to me closely. This estate has been in my family for 20 years. These guests represent the finest bloodlines in California. You do not belong here. Now, apologize for the intrusion and leave before I have you dragged out and thrown into the road." "I apologize for the inconvenience," Olivia said, and there was this strange, heavy weight to her words, like she was speaking a language Evelyn wasn't smart enough to understand. "As you wish." But here's the kicker, she didn't leave. She turned away from the main tent, sure, but she didn't head for the gate. Instead, she started walking toward the garden path, moving with this eerie, practiced confidence. She knew exactly which flagstone on the path was loose and stepped over it without looking down. She ducked slightly under the low-hanging branch of the ancient willow tree before she even reached it. She walked like a ghost haunting her own life. Evelyn watched her go, her jaw practically hitting the grass. "The audacity," she muttered to her assistant, a terrified young woman named Sarah. "She's wandering around like she owns the place. Keep an eye on her. If she touches the silver, tackle her." As Olivia moved deeper into the party, the atmosphere started to get weird. And I mean, Twilight Zone weird. The catering manager, a guy named Henri who had been running events in the valley for 30 years, looked up from a tray of lobster tails, saw Olivia, and dropped a crystal flute. It shattered, loudly, but Henri didn't even notice. He just stared at her, his face draining of color, looking like he'd seen a resurrection. He started whispering to the waitstaff, pointing discreetly, and suddenly, the servers were giving Olivia a wide berth, treating her with this terrified reverence. Evelyn noticed. Of course she noticed. She noticed everything. "Why is the help acting so twitchy?" she demanded, grabbing a glass of champagne from a passing tray. "And why is that woman staring at my fountain?" Olivia was indeed standing by the old stone fountain in the center of the rose garden. It was a beautiful piece, Italian marble, but the brass plaque that used to be there had been ripped off years ago, leaving ugly screw holes. Olivia reached out and traced the empty space with her fingertips, her expression unreadable. An elderly man, the head groundskeeper named Matteo, shuffled out from behind a hedge. He took off his hat, clutching it to his chest with dirty, weathered hands. "Miss Olivia," he whispered, his voice cracking. Is it really you?" Evelyn, who had been stalking Olivia like a hawk, swooped in before Olivia could answer. "Do you know this person, Matteo?" she barked. Matteo looked from the terrifying Evelyn to the calm Olivia, his eyes wide. Yes, She used to play here. A long time ago. Play here? Evelyn laughed, a harsh, jagged sound. What? Did her mother scrub the floors? Did her father mow the lawn? She turned to Olivia, smiling that cruel, shark-like smile. Is that it, honey? You're here to relive the glory days of the staff quarters? It's pathetic. Really. Go back to whatever trailer park you crawled out of and leave the memories to the people who actually matter. Olivia looked at Matteo, ignoring Evelyn completely. Hello, Matteo. The roses look beautiful. You saved the yellow ones, just like my father asked. Matteo had tears in his eyes. Your father was a good man, miss. The best. You look just like him. That is enough. Evelyn grabbed Matteo's arm, digging her nails in. Get back to work, old man, or you can pack your bags and leave with her. I don't pay you to socialize with trespassers. Olivia watched this, and for the first time, a crack appeared in her armor. Her eyes narrowed, just a fraction. Be careful, Mrs. St. James, she said softly. Loyalty is a rare currency. You shouldn't spend it so recklessly. I don't need advice from a vagrant, Evelyn spat. Security. I want her gone now. 2 security guards, big guys in ill-fitting suits, started walking over, looking reluctant. They sensed the shift in the air, too. But before they could grab her, a guest intervened. It was Tiffany, one of those socialites who wears her husband's money like armor. She walked up to Olivia, swirling her wine, looking bored and mean. Is this the problem, Evelyn? God, it's so sad. She's probably waiting for the cake to be cut so she can shove some in her purse. The little circle of sycophants around them laughed. Look at her shoes. A guy in a linen suit sneered. Last season. Try last decade. She's casing the joint, another whispered loudly. Probably planning to sue us for slipping on the grass. Olivia stood in the center of this circle of hate, the sun beating down on her, and she didn't shrink. She pulled a notepad out of her bag and checked her watch. She wrote something down. What are you writing? Evelyn demanded, trying to snatch the pad. Are you taking notes on my guests? This is harassment. I'll sue you for stalking. I'm documenting, Olivia said calmly, pulling the pad back. I'm documenting the state of the property. The cracks in the retaining wall you haven't fixed. The dry rot in the gazebo. And, of course, the way you treat the people you think are beneath you. You're insane, Tiffany laughed. She's actually insane, Evelyn. Call the police. This is getting scary. I am calling the police, Evelyn announced, pulling out her phone. And my lawyer. Richard Sterling is on his way. He destroys people like you for sport. By the time he's done, you won't be able to get a job sweeping streets. Just then, a man walked out from the main house. He was wearing a tuxedo, looking uncomfortable, tugging at his collar. It was Detective Ray Alvarez, an old friend of the groom, off duty but definitely still a cop. He saw the commotion and walked over, his cop instincts tingling. What's going on here, Evelyn? This woman is trespassing, Ray. She's someone you really, really don't want to mess with. Stop speaking in riddles. Evelyn yelled. Who is she? She's someone with more authority than anyone in this zip code, Ray whispered. He took off his sunglasses, a gesture of respect. I didn't know you were in the valley. Hello, Detective Alvarez, Olivia said. Congratulations on making lieutenant. The crowd went silent. A lieutenant deferring to a wedding crasher? It didn't compute. Authority. Evelyn laughed, but it sounded a little brittle now. What authority? Is she the health inspector? Fine, check the kitchen. We are up to code. Mrs. St. James, Ray said, stepping between them. Please. Stop. I will not stop. Evelyn was vibrating with rage now. This is my estate. My son's wedding. And I will not be humiliated by a nobody. Your estate? Olivia asked. The question hung in the air, heavy and sharp. Yes. My estate. We bought it 20 years ago. We have the deed. Do you? Olivia opened her briefcase. She didn't rush. She moved with the slow, deliberate speed of a predator who knows the prey has nowhere to run. She pulled out a thick stack of papers. They weren't crisp and new. They were old, yellowed, smelling of dust and archives. What is that trash? Tiffany sneered. This, Olivia said, holding up a document, is the original deed to this property, signed by my grandfather in 1945. And this, she held up another, is the transfer of ownership to my father in 1980. Ancient history. Evelyn waved her hand. We bought it in 2004. Everyone knows that. Correction, Olivia said, her voice dropping to a register that sent shivers down everyone's spine. You occupied it in 2004. You produced a bill of sale signed by my father. A bill of sale dated 3 weeks after he had been admitted to a memory care facility with advanced dementia. A bill of sale that was notarized by a man who had lost his license for fraud 2 years prior. The silence on the lawn was absolute. You could hear the ice melting in the glasses. That's a lie, Evelyn whispered, but her face was turning grey. That's a vicious lie. We paid cash. We have the records. You have forgeries, Olivia said. And for 20 years, I have been building the case. You see, when my father died, he died crying. He died thinking he had lost the family legacy because he made a mistake. He died thinking he was a failure. But he wasn't. He was a victim. A victim of a predatory acquisition by a woman who wanted the prestige of a vineyard without the work. You can't prove any of that, Evelyn hissed. Get out. Get out before I kill you. I wouldn't recommend that, Ray Alvarez said softly. Because she's not just the former owner, Evelyn. I don't care who she is. Evelyn screamed. Richard. Richard, get over here. She waved frantically at a silver Bentley pulling into the driveway. It was Richard Sterling, the family lawyer, the shark she had promised would destroy Olivia. He got out of the car, adjusting his expensive tie, looking every bit the high-powered attorney coming to squash a bug. He strode across the lawn, confident, arrogant. What seems to be the trouble, Evelyn? Richard boomed. Another nuisance claim. This woman. Evelyn pointed. She's claiming fraud. She's claiming she owns the place. Destroy her, Richard. Bury her in lawsuits. Richard Sterling turned to face the accuser. He looked at Olivia. He looked at the briefcase. He looked at her face. And then, Richard Sterling, the shark of Napa Valley, dropped his briefcase in the dirt. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. He looked like he was having a stroke. Hello, Mr. Sterling, Olivia said, a small, cold smile playing on her lips. It's been a while. Since the RICO hearings in 18, I believe. Judge Mercer, Richard stammered, his voice squeaking. I had no idea. What are you doing here? Judge. Evelyn looked back and forth between them. She's a judge? So what? Traffic court? Who cares? Shut up, Evelyn, Richard hissed, sweating profusely now. She's not traffic court. She's the United States District Court Judge for the Northern District of California. She sends congressmen to federal prison. She handles organized crime and complex fraud. The silence that followed Olivia's declaration was thick enough to choke on. The wind rustled through the grapevines, the only sound in a garden filled with 300 frozen people. Evelyn St. James, who 10 minutes ago had looked 10 feet tall, now looked like she was shrinking into her designer heels. Her business excuse hung in the air, pathetic and hollow. Richard Sterling, the lawyer, finally found his voice, though it was shaking. Your Honor, Judge Mercer, perhaps we can discuss a settlement? A quiet restitution. There's no need to drag this through the federal courts. The publicity alone. The publicity. Olivia laughed, and it was a dry, humorless sound. Mr. Sterling, you and your client spent the last 20 minutes publicly humiliating me, accusing me of theft, and treating me like a criminal on my own land. And now you're worried about your publicity. She stepped forward, the black folder in her hand feeling like a gavel. There will be no quiet settlement. There will be no backroom deal. You stole my father's legacy. You watched him fade away in a facility while you threw parties on the land he broke his back to cultivate. You erased the Washington name from the gates. You fired the staff who knew the truth. That isn't a mistake, Evelyn. That is malice. Evelyn was crying now, but they were tears of terror, not remorse. I'll lose everything, she sobbed. If you take the house, the legal fees, I'll be destitute. Just like my father was, Olivia said coldly. He died with nothing because you manipulated the accounts. You drained the estate before the ink was even dry on the forged deed. Leo stepped forward. He looked broken. He looked at the vineyards, the house, the life he thought was his inheritance, and he realized it was all smoke. Judge Mercer, he said quietly, if this is true, and I believe you, then I don't want it. I don't want any of it. Take it back. It's yours. It's always been yours. He took off his boutonniere and placed it on the table. Mom, I'm done. I can't build a marriage on this. I can't raise kids here knowing their inheritance is stolen goods. Olivia looked at Leo. She saw the young man she had spared 3 years ago. She saw the integrity she had hoped to cultivate in him. She looked at Evelyn, a woman destroyed by her own greed. And she looked at the guests, the Tiffanys, the sycophants, who were suddenly realizing that their social hierarchy was a house of cards. She took a deep breath. This was the moment. The power was entirely hers. She could send them to prison. She could evict them by sunset. She could burn their world down. Mr. Sterling, Olivia said, turning to the lawyer, you will surrender your license to the Bar Association by Monday morning. You will plead guilty to the facilitation charges. If you do that, I won't pursue the maximum sentence. Do we understand each other? Sterling nodded vigorously, looking like he'd just been spared execution. Yes, Your Honor. Absolutely. Monday morning. And you, Evelyn. Olivia turned her gaze to the matriarch. Evelyn flinched. Please, Evelyn whispered. I'm an old woman. Don't send me to prison. Prison is exactly where you belong, Olivia said. But your son is a good man. And sending his mother to federal prison on his wedding day. That's not justice. That's cruelty. And unlike you, I know the difference. The crowd leaned in. What was she going to do? I am taking the deed back, Olivia announced. This property reverts to the Mercer family trust effective immediately. However, she paused. I am gifting the stewardship of the vineyard to Leo. Leo's head snapped up. What? You love this land, Leo, Olivia said gently. I've seen the work you've done on the vines. You treat them with respect. I have a career on the bench. I cannot run a winery. You will run it. You will pay a fair lease to my trust, and those funds will go to a legal defense fund for elderly victims of fraud. And what about her? Leo pointed at his mother. Evelyn, Olivia said, her voice hard as steel. You have 2 choices. Choice A, we go to trial. I present the evidence. You go to prison for 10 to 15 years. Evelyn shook her head frantically. Choice B. Choice B, you sign a confession today. You publicly apologize to Matteo and every staff member you have mistreated. You move into the guest cottage, the small one by the road, and you live there as a guest of your son, with no ownership, no authority, and no voice in the business. You will spend the rest of your life watching the people you look down upon run the estate you stole. It was a fate worse than prison for a woman like Evelyn St. James. To be stripped of status. To be a guest in her own kingdom. To be powerless. I accept, Evelyn whispered, defeat crushing her shoulders. Good. Olivia turned to the crowd. Now, this is still a wedding. And I believe there is a ceremony to finish. She walked over to Matteo, the old gardener who was weeping silently by the hedge. She took his arm. Matteo, would you do me the honor of escorting me to a seat? I believe the front row is available. Matteo beamed, standing taller than he had in 20 years. Yes, Miss Olivia. Right this way. As they walked down the aisle, the guests parted like the Red Sea. No one sneered. No one whispered about her dress or her shoes. They looked at her with awe. They looked at her with fear. But mostly, they looked at her with respect. The wedding went on, but the tone had changed. It wasn't a display of wealth anymore. It was a celebration of truth. Leo married his bride, and when he kissed her, he did it as a man who owned nothing but his integrity, and that made him richer than his mother had ever been. Evelyn sat in the back, silent, small, ignored. The staff, the servers, the valets, they walked with their heads high. They knew who was really in charge now. They knew that the woman in the navy dress saw them, valued them, and protected them. After the ceremony, Olivia stood by the old fountain. She watched the sun dip below the hills, casting long golden shadows over the vines her father had planted. Ray Alvarez, the detective, walked up to her. "That was quite a show, Judge," Ray said, handing her a glass of wine. "You know, you could have crushed her. You could have put her in a cell." "I know," Olivia said, taking a sip. "It tasted like home. But my father used to say that revenge burns the house down to kill the rat. Justice? Justice traps the rat and gives the house back to the family." "You're a better person than me," Ray laughed. "I would have enjoyed the handcuffs." "Oh, the handcuffs are still on the table if she steps out of line," Olivia smiled, and it was the first time that day her smile reached her eyes. "She's on probation now. And I'm her probation officer." Olivia finished her wine, placed the glass on the stone rim of the fountain, and picked up her briefcase. She walked toward her car, a modest sedan parked next to the Bentleys and Ferraris. As she drove away, she looked in the rearview mirror. She saw the brass plaque, which she had pulled from her bag and handed to Mateo to reinstall, glinting in the twilight. It read, "The Mercer Estate, estimated 1945. The lie was over. The truth was carved in stone. And that's the thing about power, real power. It doesn't need to scream security. It doesn't need to belittle the gardener or mock the guest in the cheap shoes. Real power is quiet. Real power is having the nuclear codes in your briefcase and choosing not to use them until it's absolutely necessary. Real power is knowing exactly who you are, so it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks you are." Evelyn St. James thought power was exclusion. She thought it was keeping people out. But Olivia Mercer showed her that true power is letting people in, letting the truth in, and watching the lies crumble under the weight of it. So, here's the question I want to leave you with today. If you were in Olivia's shoes, if someone stole your family's legacy, humiliated you in public, and treated you like trash, would you have offered them choice B? Would you have let them live in the guest cottage? Or would you have burned it all down and sent them to prison? There's a part of me that wants the revenge, I won't lie. But then I look at Leo, and I think maybe Olivia was right. Maybe the best revenge is forcing someone to watch you succeed with grace while they live with their shame. Let me know what you would have done in the comments below. Are you Team Revenge or Team Mercy?